And, George, this is our show, so we ask the questions, but we'll allow you.
Curling now enters the Sports Weekend spotlight.
You caught the attention of George Stroumboulopoulos, who, of course, quote tweeted what you were saying and saying you were spitting bars, and he's in the house.
I actually didn't know. I'm too old. I didn't know what spitting bars meant, but there you go.
Colleen, when a great rapper, when a great MC is throwing down unbelievable verses, we say we're spitting bars. And when I was watching you, because I love what you two are doing, when I was watching you talk about that, I was honestly just sitting at home and I just went, Colleen spitting bars, because she's telling some truth. And one of the things about Canadian sport that's so challenging is that a lot of times the people who cover it are so busy being fans, they won't tell the truth. And you told the truth, and I loved that.
Well, I hope I don't get spanked for telling the truth later. But anyhow, listen, have you ever curled before?
Yeah. I curled in high school. I started as a lead, then I was a vice, and then I was a skip. I did that for about 3 years. When I started as a junior reporter in my early days, I was covering Bonspiels. I remember covering one of the big Sandra Peterson wins when she was before she was Schmerlo the curler. And so I started off covering curling for sports radio. It's honestly one of my favorite sports in the whole world. And to be able to watch it at the Olympics, and I was just listening to all you talk about how competitive a field it is. It's actually it's one of the great lines of the power of the game, that so many countries around the world have made this no easy path for anybody. It's a truly global sport, and I love watching curling. I was so excited. I'm on the West Coast, so I was yelling at the TV watching the late feed. Oh my goodness, it was so fun.
I just thought you were so cool for school that I'm just trying to picture you curling in high school. I mean, you're a motorcycle wearing. I'm just speaking the truth here, okay?
So one day,
you and I could play mixed doubles.
I would love to. It's my only chance at winning a medal, but you'll never win with me. I'll drag you down. I'm no good. I went to one of those schools, Colleen, that didn't really have a big athletic program. And Devin, it's good to see you too, Dev, by the way. Hi, bud. We couldn't afford sliders, so we our school just put tape under our shoes. So we just slid on tape all the time. It was fun.
Electric tape. Hey, I started on electric tape, and can I tell you something? And this is for any junior curling watcher. Take your slider off, do what George did and what I did. You develop quads of steel. You got to thrust out of that hack with every thruster on possible.
Yep.
To this day, people will go, well, God, you got some thighs on you. I go, thank you. Thunder thighs, I call them, because of the electric tape.
Yep, absolutely. I loved it. I love what you're doing. And Dev, you bring so much joy as a fan of curling on social media, and you do it with just a reckless abandonment. It's been really fun to watch you. I mean, Dev and I spoke, I think, outside of an Oprah show many years ago.
We did. George, we did.
Okay, listen, why don't we get George on the team for Milano Cortina? We're already planning on packing the bags. I don't even know if I'm on the list, but I'm coming, and I'll be knocking on Devin's door going, yeah, let me in. Let me do this too. George, you could come as well and do that curling show with us.
Happy to.
George, wonderful to see you, and thank you for making time for us. You're such a fan of sport. We're coming 6 months later from the Tokyo Games in a pandemic. And wasn't that a rallying moment for this country? Now we're into these Winter Games. What's coming up for you as you've been watching this sport, these two unprecedented games in the midst of a pandemic?
Yeah, it's been super bizarre to watch it without fans. It's been really interesting to see broadcasters really scramble and how to cover a country that has a lot of really important issues to be discussed. So and watching the Canadian broadcasts, watching the UN broadcast or US broadcasts, it's been really interesting to see how people try to cover sport in a world where so much other stuff's going on, and sport as in and of itself isn't enough to bring us together, because sport doesn't address the root causes of a lot of these inequities in the world. So it'd be really interesting to see how people have been covering it. But I do find my moments where I just sit back and I just want to watch, because having competed in sports in my life, but also been in this field and watching both you and your careers, there's something really pure about seeing a couple of people sit there and say, what we're playing for is to be the best in the world. And in a world that has so much opinion over what's good or what has quality, what there is no opinion applied to is who has the best score. Sports are the purest way to determine the best in many respects because there's a score. Watching Canada win on that last shot, and stealing a point to get to where they go, to lose by a millimeter, to see all of this play out, it just lets me not focus on anything else in the world for a minute I'm so excited. I remember being in Newfoundland doing my old talk show from a bar on George Street just after the Gushu rink had won their gold medal, and they came by. They were rock stars. The fact that from 25 years old to 41, he's going for it again. Jennifer, who's been such a great leader in sport in our country, from the middle of the country, to go out there and to take another run at this, and their teams, and Caitlin playing, who knows what it's like to win mixed. So there's just so much, and it wouldn't be Canadian sport if we didn't find a thing to complain about. So there's also that layer to it, which I think is really interesting. I'm really excited to watch how this plays out.
Dang, you just spit some bars.
Oh,
You just spit them right there. But can I tell you, being here on the ground, and I know everything that else is going on outside of the Olympic Games, the people here, they are so kind. I remember this from 2008 when I was here, and I bought a bicycle here so I could get around easier, see the city, not be on the media shuttle.
Right.
I got lost 1,000 times. Everybody helped me then. Everybody helps me every day. Like when I drop stuff, they're running, lady, and they're so kind. I mean, I just can't get over that. It's what I remember from 2008. So no matter what is going on politically, and I know that's not great, but man, the people are so helpful and kind here, like I remember them in 2008. And for that, I'm very, very thankful. So,
and as you know, the human rights conversations are about people in China. It's really important discussions to be had, and it's about protecting people and using. I mean, the Olympics are a strange thing anyway, how games are awarded. We know all of the backstory of the Olympics anyway. It's not like the Olympics are the purest situation, right? But what I think is important, especially now, is to be able to compartmentalize and say, I just really want to see Jennifer and Brad and their rinks win. Like, I really want to see them win, and I wanted Rachel and John to win. Can I ask you one question, Colleen, as somebody who's been in these high pressure games? One of the things about the mic'd up players that I found I love is I'm learning, but it didn't appear they were on the same page a lot. And I want to know if that was common, if that's really that common, or we were just seeing something that was that was indicative of some of the greater challenges you had mentioned earlier.
Well, here's the snafu, and George, this is our show, so we ask the questions, but we'll allow you.
We're in the red chairs. We're back in the red chairs, baby.
We talked a little bit about this, and so Rachel and John focus on their 4-person game all the time. So they very rarely get to play mixed doubles together. So they're used to their conversation and dialogue and communication that they develop weekend after weekend and day after day with their 4-person. Then along they come here, and it was sort of a work in progress. And so we saw the communication gap after the first game, and they were actually still trying to work on it here. And so hence we don't use that word often enough, but we should. My soliloquy on the fact that they need to time the mixed doubles conversation and trials at an earlier time so that team can focus on that very extremely important part of curling, which is that communication and dialogue. You won't see that problem in the 4-person game. They play together all the time, Gushu and Jones. So
yeah, I felt like we didn't put them in the best position to win at all. They still made incredible shots, and I love your both of your takes on it, because it wasn't directed at the athletes. It was directed. It was directed at and it's a real testament, because Canada's been such a wonderful ambassador for curling around the world, that the sport gets picked up. That I think it's great that there's competition now.
Yep, absolutely. And to the point you're both bringing up about communication, pay attention to the way Gushu and the boys communicate. I think they are undoubtedly the best communicators in the world. Every piece of information on that ice, they are sharing with one another. And over the course of 9 games in a round robin, that information leads to points and leads to wins. George, what are you going to be watching for? Specifically in the curling, any predictions? Can Gushu and Jones make it double gold and get Canada back on top of the granite world?
Well, of course, I'm going to say they can, and I actually believe they can. I don't think it will be. I think there'll be some challenges with it. I definitely think there'll be some challenges, but I actually do think. I remember Brad at 25 being pretty stoic. I think he'll be pretty stoic at 41.
I love
Yeah,
that.
he talks about the perspective he's gained with age. Age is a good thing for that. It's
And
the only good thing about age.
that's true. And Jennifer was 47. I think Jennifer's 47 now. So Jennifer, we're sending adult teams who will not be swayed by the pressure. I imagine that at some point, I've talked to a lot of athletes over the years, and they say, especially the boxers, when the first punch is thrown, you forget about everything else, and it's even the game plan goes away, and you're just here to win. And I imagine that the same thing will happen here. I also think that with everything else going on in the world, we are so lucky that our country is being represented by two rinks that have those temperaments. They both have the right temperaments to manage all of the other stuff that's going around at this time. So I'm looking for that. I'm looking for calm. I'm also looking to see them enjoy it. I think it won't be as tense, I think, for in those early days watching it.
Agreed.
Yeah, they both talked. I find it amazing that Gushu says, "My life isn't going to change if I win another Olympic gold medal," and isn't that such a beautiful space energetically to be in when you're going on the ice and you're not gripping that handle and that rock like he would have been when he was a baby-faced 25-year-old. And I think in life and in sport, when you're playing free, magical things can happen.
No doubt.
Oh, 100%.
No doubt.
And I'm not sure how much. Is he there? I'm not sure. I mean, listen, Colleen, as an athlete, when you tell reporters how you feel about stuff, what percentage was truth and what percentage was a lie? That you wish was true?
Always speaking the truth. I was always speaking the truth. And I do find both Brad and Jennifer, and they're always speaking the truth almost. Every now and then you might get a cliche, but they say it as it is. So I think that'll continue here.
I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be really. It's been good. I think watching the hockey game last night was exciting as well to see how that kind of played out, especially as it changed in the third period. So there's a lot of competitive spirit happening at the games. I was so happy that the big air, the men like Mark McMorris and Max had those big showings as well. I know Mark didn't want a bronze, but the first snowboarder net to 3 medals and 3 different these are really important moments, and these are the people that are helping to create the love of the game in our country, because people forget that the X Games was an afterthought for the mainstream for a long time. And it wasn't that long ago that Mark McGuire stole everybody's heart in the mainstream. So watching here, it's been really a fun Olympics. The backdrops are weird. The backdrops are weird for the big air jumps. The environment stuff's very weird for sure. But whenever I see the rink and I hear the rocks crashing behind you, it settles me. It just settles me.